Today I want to look at how complex trauma affects the emotional world. And just to say up front is, to me, in working with clients all the time, it's just very sad to watch the huge amount of damage that happens in the emotional world, how we try to cope with painful emotions that becomes very maladaptive and causes all kinds of problems in adult life. And so I want to just give you a bunch of the different characteristics that come out of complex trauma around emotions. But before I do it, I just want to give you kind of a backdrop of information that will help you understand all of these characteristics even better. So the first thing to understand is that the brain is designed for really 4 feel-good chemicals. So it wants to have dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. And those all come out of safety, connection. They make a child feel very good. What happens with complex trauma when there's danger, when the child can't connect, is those 4 chemicals are absent somewhat pretty much in the brain. And they're replaced with cortisol, adrenaline, and opioids. So instead of getting these 4 feel-good chemicals, they're getting other chemicals that are trying to help them escape pain. But there's pain is really what is happening mainly in the child's life. The reality for those children then is they can't resolve the pain on their own. Nobody's helping them resolve the pain. They're not old enough to have tools to resolve the pain. They can't escape the pain. And so these negative emotions are there, but then they just keep getting added to. So there's more and more pain piling up inside of them. The second thing to understand is that emotions in a healthy situation, in a healthy family, are designed to train a child in positive ways. They're like the lights on a dashboard. They tell you something's wrong underneath the hood in your environment so that you can fix it. So when a child is in pain, the emotion of pain or fear, what does it do? It pulls them to want to connect to mom and dad. It pulls them to want to express their needs. It pulls them in a healthy direction that would provide safety, healing, and help them resolve. But what happens to a child in complex trauma? They experience hurt and pain. They follow those instincts. They go to mom and dad. They express their needs, their feelings, and they get rejected. They get punished. They get neglected. They get shamed. So going in the positive direction has actually resulted in more pain. And so now when they experience pain, the brain now pulls them in an opposite direction. I'm going to isolate. I'm going to shut down. I am not going to talk to anybody. I'm going to deny that I have needs. So the limbic brain is now pulling them in the wrong direction, in a self-destructive direction. The limbic brain now has been mistrained and it is no longer a reliable guide. So that's big picture. Now, if you look at this graph, a child in a healthy home, the red line on the top is they're mainly experiencing positive emotions. And when they experience a negative emotion, parents comfort them, nurture them, give them tools to resolve it. And so it's resolved. It doesn't stay there. They go back to a positive emotion. But what are you seeing with a child in complex trauma? Most of their emotions are negative. They can't resolve them. They're getting more and more negative emotions all the time. And so you can see this is not a very pleasant world to live in. This is a very painful world that can't be resolved. And so because of that, the brain then goes to solutions that it hopes will resolve these emotions, fix this living in constant pain and emptiness. And that's where these characteristics come from. So the very first one is that most people from complex trauma become emotional stuffers. I can't resolve the emotion of pain. I can't fix it, so just stuff it. Somehow get rid of it. And part of what they do with that is they repress the emotions, but then they kind of see all emotions as bad because all of their emotions have only led to more painful situations. Or they see emotions as unnecessary. Who needs emotions? I just need to be in my head and think and figure stuff out in life. Emotions just make life messy. Emotions make life difficult. They add more problems. So emotions are bad and unnecessary. So different methods are used by the brain to try to suppress the emotions, to stuff them down so that they're kind of below the conscious level. So number one is as soon as they feel a negative emotion, it's like a switch flips in their head and they immediately shove it down. They immediately repress it. Some of that can even happen subconsciously for them. They're not even aware that they do it. They've done it for so long. Others, as soon as they feel emotions, they escape to their head. And more, they just live in their head. And so the emotional world is something that they avoid at all costs, and they justify it by their just totally thinking through life constantly, and that to them is very healthy. Some children, they go to the mindset of whatever, because what they've realized is if you care about something, then it hurts more when you lose it. So don't care about anything. Just whatever about everything. Don't get attached to anything. Don't have any feelings towards anything, because that will only add more pain ultimately to you. So with that, for some kids, is they just harden their heart. Don't love, don't have warm emotions, don't connect, just be a hard person. That's how you protect yourself from pain. So it's turning the heart into a stone so that it can't be penetrated by anything. Some, instead of feeling emotions, I'd rather just stay busy. So I need constant distractions. As long as I'm busy doing something, then I don't have time to feel. So I'll become a workaholic. I'll constantly be doing something that keeps me from feeling. Others, let's medicate emotions as soon as I feel them. So I can use distractions, but I can also use sex. I can also use food. I can also use gambling, TV, whatever. Anything that creates a pleasure that's artificial, but it's a pleasure that medicates the emotions. Or I can use anger. So if I get angry, then I don't feel pain. So I use other emotions to try to medicate the pain. For many, they end up in what we would define as emotional anorexia. They've pushed down, suppressed their emotions for so long they no longer even know they're there. It's like the person who suppressed their hunger desire for so long they no longer feel hunger. So emotional anorexia, I've seen it in so many people. They're not even aware of their emotions. You ask them what they're feeling, they don't know. They have repressed it for so long. It's almost like it's a system that's been shut down and doesn't even know how to work and isn't even acknowledged. So that seems to work for the child. But in adult life, they start to have problems. So problem number one is when you are suppressing all of your emotions, basically what you're saying is, I'm weak because I have these weak emotions. These emotions are bad. They're part of me that I don't like. These emotions, if I show them, embarrass me. And so it just builds shame. That because I have these emotions, because I have to repress them, I must be a bad person. So they try to lock their emotions away. The second thing that happens is, even though you repress emotions, even though you try to convince yourself you're just a thinker and you make all your decisions based on thinking, your emotions are still operating your life at a subconscious level. Your fear, your anger, all of that is still running the show. You're not aware of it, but it is. And so you're making decisions often based on emotions more than on thinking. You may have developed systems to deny that to yourself, but if you stop and look at it, you'll probably see that it's there. The next problem is, so you got all these repressed emotions that are down there. As soon as they are triggered, so somebody touches your fear, somebody touches your fear of abandonment, fear of disrespect, fear of criticism, fear of getting hurt, fear of failure, all of a sudden you are going back to old behaviors. So you might be going along in your life and living very healthy behaviors, but as soon as that fear that you're not even aware of gets triggered, you regress to old behaviors, old survival things. So as long as those emotions stay repressed and you don't acknowledge them, you're only going to get healthy to a certain degree. Because as long as they get triggered, you just keep going back to old behaviors. And so you don't grow beyond that point. Another very tricky thing is when people repress emotions, they think they're only repressing negative emotions, but in reality, you're repressing all emotions. You're repressing your ability to feel a lot of positive emotions, to feel joy, to feel a contentment. So you can't just divide negative from positive emotions and only repress one. You're repressing it all, and it's making you feel like a robot, dead inside, emotionally stunted. Then a lot of people, when they shut down emotions, the way to make sure they do it is to harden themselves, turn off their conscience, so that I don't want to care. I don't want to feel guilty about anything. So let's shut down my conscience. Let's shut down caring. So let's just get harder and harder inside, because everything makes me weak. Emotions make me weak. I need to be strong. So that means I need to not feel. I need to be hard. So that usually then develops a person who's got a lot of anger, who doesn't have empathy. And that then leads to the next problem is it begins to affect all your relationships. People can't get close to you. People want to have intimacy, but they can't with you. There's a hardness. There's an inability to connect emotionally with people. People see you as distant. People just say, I try to connect, but you're emotionally unavailable. All of those things begin to cause relationships to break down. So conflicts begin to increase, tensions mount, and then you drift apart more and more. So it always affects relationships negatively. And that then, when you've shut down emotions, you are dead inside, you feel no joy, there's a growing loneliness. There's a growing emptiness that is haunting for people. So this stuffing of emotions is so common in complex trauma, but it is a major issue for people to begin healing from in their recovery journey, to begin to allow themselves to feel emotions, to identify emotions, to learn how to handle emotions, how to express emotions. That becomes emotional intelligence. And it is a huge topic because a lot of people, after they've repressed emotions for so long, they aren't aware they have emotions. They don't even know what the feeling is. They don't know how to identify it. And it takes a lot of time to develop emotional intelligence. So be patient with yourself.